Joining us. All right, thank you everyone for joining us today at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of South Dakota. And if I say Ollie out loud, Zach's dog might go a little crazy because that's his name. But we are here from the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of South Dakota. If any of you are from other Ollies in the country, welcome. We're happy to have you here. If you're not a member of our South Dakota Ollie, we would love it if you would join. That would be one of our greatest honors to have you as a member in our group. I would like to thank everybody for coming today, especially Zach, who I'm really excited about. I'm kind of a Zach fan. He does a lot of really interesting things in town. He basically, in my mind, invented backwards parking, the parking that you see by MB and used to be up by the bakery. He's also involved in all of the sidewalk, making the town more walkable. And of course, he's here today because of his artwork that he does, the murals, and how murals and placemaking have become a real thing that's great for towns. And I'm just going to let Zach take it from here.
Cool. Thank you, Thea. Thank you for having me. Excited to talk to y'all. So I'll kind of just, generally tell you. Oh gosh, the view screen just like switched to me huge on my own screen, and I've got to have that not be the case. That was terrifying. Back to the grid view. That's better. I'll tell you generally about the work that I do, and I'll kind of go backwards and bring you through some of my work, but I'll probably go off camera and show you images from my website because they're a lot more interesting than my face. So I'm Zach DeVore. I am an artist and I work in placemaking. That's usually like the simplest way I kind of talk to people about the stuff that I do. But if you're not familiar with the term placemaking, it can mean kind of a variety of things. But generally it is using art or design or events or community building practices to reimagine spaces, to redesign spaces, to make them safer for pedestrians, places that people want to go hang out or shop or eat at, places that are safer for kids. Placemaking is used a lot in older or run down places to rejuvenate them. But how I got to doing placemaking or what those sort of projects are, well, it was kind of a long road and kind of meandered into a few different areas that maybe are interesting. So I'll maybe back up now and do a quick review of Zach DeVore, This Is Your Life. So I grew up in Brandon. I graduated from Brandon Valley High School. So I've always been around the area in Sioux Falls. I went to school at USD, so go Yotes, and went and got a degree in art education with an emphasis in printmaking. When I was at school, I was involved with a variety of extracurricular art things. I had friends who were in bands and played music and did acting and did video, and obviously we made a lot of art and used to organize art shows down in Vermilion. So being a part of like an artistic community or a creative community was something that was always important to me. Post-college, I started working as a teacher, as a middle school art teacher in Sioux Falls. I'd always been pretty positive that I was going to be a art teacher, from high school on. My mom's a teacher. I've always been around the education world. Taught at Memorial Middle School and Edison Middle School. For 2 years, I was not quite full-time. And I love teaching. I love working with kids. But, I wasn't really engaged with maybe some of the extra parts of teaching. If any of you are former teachers or are familiar with teachers, some of the parts that aren't actually teaching the kids was kind of not as engaging for me. So I started to look at doing something else. And so I decided after 2 years of teaching to leave teaching to do two things. One was to, I got a job at downtown Sioux Falls, DTSF, puts on all the events and programming and all the cool stuff happening in downtown as their administrative assistant. So just the person who took notes, helped out with events, etc., kind of the catch-all person. So I got a job doing that. At the same time, I opened up an art gallery. It was something that I was so interested in, passionate about in school. I worked at the art galleries there, and I saw that Sioux Falls kind of needed a gallery space for artists who were young or emerging or who needed a spotlight. We have the Washington Pavilion, which is an amazing resource, but it can take over 2 years to get a show there, and that's if you're good. And there just wasn't as many kind of professional gallery opportunities for young emerging artists, college artists that are college educated, but there just wasn't a space for them to kind of grow their base, their clients, their name. So I, along with the help of way too many people to name, opened up Exposure Gallery and Studios in the summer of 2014. And that was located at the corner of 6th and Phillips in the Labrie building, or the Andrew Keene warehouse. Recently in the news, it was just purchased by a new owner who's going to rehab it. But we were there before it was cool. So we opened up that in 2014, and Exposure had 2 gallery spaces as well as 7 artist studio spaces that artists could rent. And we put on new art shows every first Friday. And we did that for 4 years. Dozens of art shows, different kinds, group shows, solo shows, lots of different artists, and it became a real hub. And we ended up having a great neighbor called Jam Art and Supplies, who were like a secondhand art, like an art thrift store, basically. Who also did like kids classes and stuff. And so we formed this really like symbiotic, great kind of community there in that part of downtown. During that time, we started doing events, art events outside of the gallery space. And some of those things were like art sales on Small Business Saturday. But a big event that we, I guess, got a lot of attention for was called Art Maze. And Art Maze was a building-wide art event inside of the former DM&E building. So on 8th and Phillips, now it's Heritage Bank. But at that time, it had been empty for about 5 years. The railroad had left, and it had just kind of sat vacant. And then I had seen in the newspaper that a new owner had acquired it. I vaguely knew that new owner. Reached out to him on Facebook and kind of pitched this kind of wild idea. Said, hey, could we use the empty space to put on like an art show, a big art show? And they said yes, which is wild. So in the winter of January of 2016, we put on Art Maze, and this would maybe be a good time to start showing some pictures, but it was 4 floors of murals, of pop-up art galleries, installations. We had live music, and it was open only for 2 days. That was kind of one of the pitches. This was a limited time event. It's going to be here and then gone, because after we were done, they were just going to be gutting, all 4 floors to remodel this dated building. So we put on that show, and we ended up having, I think, a little over 4,000 people come out during those 2 days, during weather much like today. And so after that, we started doing some more events of that nature, and I became really interested and kind of passionate about, art's ability to kind of transform spaces and activate places and reactivate places. I was working at downtown Sioux Falls around the same time, and so, I was obviously involved in different kinds of, events. I used to hand count the burger battle tallies. That's how old this is. Back in my day, we used to have pencil and paper, not these apps. So I was used to doing those events and seeing the kind of effect that had, and I wanted to be a part of, making downtown in Sioux Falls a more creative or engaging place. So after 4 years of doing exposure, I decided to, there's a bunch of things happening here. At some point, I have to slot in a bigger chapter here. I became really engaged with city stuff, basically. Really passionate about art, but also things like historic preservation or neighborhood stuff. But also things like, as Thea mentioned, like walkability and pedestrian safety. I saw how things like murals and painting colorful crosswalks could like have not only like, ooh, that's pretty, but also, ooh, that can save a life. And that became really like fascinating to me. Because truth be told, I'm not like an amazing artist. Like there are real artists who have like thoughts and deep feelings and things they need to like get out, but I'm more like I can make these things. But it wasn't until I started figuring out that I can apply those skills to things like crosswalks or, just reinventing a storefront and things like that, and bringing economic vitality to a place, is when I started to really kind of get passionate and excited about making artwork. So anyway, really passionate about city stuff. Involved in my neighborhood organization, doing projects and etc. So I decided to run for city council. So in 2017, I decided to announce running for city council for the Central District. The election was 2018. Campaigned, won the election, but then didn't win the runoff election. Just narrowly defeated by Councilor Kurt Sale. I'm just assuming everyone here probably voted for me if they could have. A lot of blank screens. I assume they're all just nodding yes, 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 I did. So thank you if you did. So ran for city council, lost, still passionate, still engaged with a lot of the same stuff. Was a member of the Visual Arts Commission with the city, and a lot of different programs like that. So around that same time, I had planned to close Exposure, the gallery. My passions had just become more engaged with doing city stuff, applying art to that, and being the landlord to like 7 artists was not something that I really wanted to do anymore. Trying to chase down rent and finding that, and as you might imagine, being a contemporary art gallery in South Dakota is not exactly like a great money-making scheme. So I decided that I wanted to close Exposure. The election happened right around the same time, and so I decided just to start working solo as just an artist. I've done a lot of work with the South Dakota Arts Council as part of their Artists in Schools and as part of their Artists in Schools and Communities program. So that is something where they'll send artists to a community in South Dakota, spend 5 days working with a group of people to make a project or teach them a skill or something like that. So I've done a lot of different projects. I'll show you some of those here in a little bit. So for the past however many years, 4 years, 3 years, 8 years, however long it's been, this nebulous amount of time recently, that's what I've been doing, is working in communities across the state, painting murals a lot of the time, but also working with them on pedestrian safety things, and I don't know, probably 20 different other things I maybe forgot to mention that we'll think of when I look at pictures. So maybe we'll share my screen and look at pictures if that sounds good, and that'll be fun. So let's see here. All right, are we seeing that?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, cool. So this is my website, zachdeboer.com, if you want to just like scroll through it yourself. It's a little in progress, like all the pictures are there, but most of the captions don't actually have any words in them. Working on it. So let's see here. This is, so if you're in Sioux Falls, this is one you might recognize. This is across the street from the Orpheum Theater. This is the first of what I call my postcard murals. And that was, I guess, probably 2019, 2018. So this shows my full process of making one. At the beginning here, this is all time-lapse footage from my iPad, where I kind of originate these images and then I'll project them onto the wall. And so when I've done a lot of these murals, I've done a lot of these time lapses, and I'll say this is maybe one of my more boring time lapses. I'm gonna find a more exciting one. So that was the first. This is, you know, another one that I did in Sioux Falls, over on the Monks building, and this one took a few months. It was a big wall, but this one I think is kind of fun to watch the process of. So this is the owner of the building wanted something to do with trains, because if you're familiar with that area, it's, you know, that's where the train lines went through. I did some research, found some photos. This is a photo of a train that would have run right near here, maybe just a few yards south of that location. Took that photo, edited it, made some changes, and projected this image on the wall and started to work it out like a big paint by numbers, basically. And I designed it to also reflect the Sioux Falls flag. Yeah, so this was in the summer of 2019. If I remember, this was near. This is a nice part right here. So, I live in the All Saints neighborhood. My wife is a graphic designer. Her name's Molly O'Connor. She works at Lemonly. This is my daughter and her had come that summer to come ride and see me. So they rode the bike down and came to visit. My daughter helped me paint here for a second so I can show you. I know exactly what mark it is. So she came by, and it's this one right here. So if you're ever near it, then my daughter painted this line here. I'm assuming you're all awing. Let's see.
Yes, we are.
So this one took a long time, a lot of detail, a lot of, painting during the day, and then at night getting the projector out to kind of check lines, to add smaller details, make sure I have them all. Look at this great sunset I had one day. It was really beautiful. It was crazy. It was like before a storm or after a storm. I just turned the camera just to get it all. Let's see, let's check out. So there's a few of these, this was like a rooftop mural. This was like a fun one I did with a few other guys. They're, they live at the top of the hill, North Sioux Falls. And a lot of airplanes fly over their building. So I helped them design and paint this "Welcome to Sioux Falls" message for planes flying overhead. Let's see, let's look at my community projects here. These are some of this was a intersection mural we painted in our neighborhood. Okay, this has a few of the different projects we've done in the All Saints neighborhood. Here's a less glamorous project, but one that I'm always excited about. These are parking lane lines. So all they are lines that tell you where there's parallel parking. And it is a technique that can be used to slow down traffic, slow down speeding cars in neighborhoods. It's just like a proven fact. It visually narrows the lane when you can see where that is, and it makes people slow down. And so, I'm sure many of you have speeding cars in your neighborhood. And this was something that I worked with the city and kind of advocated for with the city of Sioux Falls to get lines painted throughout the All Saints neighborhood to slow down traffic. And on 18th Street, for example, and they did it before and after, the average car speed went from 34 miles an hour, which is 4 miles an hour over the speed limit, to 28 miles an hour, which is actually 2 under the speed limit, and frankly, a little closer to what I'd like to see the speed limit set to. So little things like white paint can, drastically improve the lives of, truly, thousands of people. So that's the kind of stuff that inspires me. Here's a little temporary bump out we did. If you're familiar, Phillips and 17th Street is right before you enter downtown. They've now, this was something that the neighborhood worked with. I drew up a design for, worked with the city with. They made a more professional design version of it. We piloted this project. The city put out these little bollards here. I painted them in purple so they're a little more noticeable. And then the next summer they made them permanent. And we've made that intersection so much safer just from those little efforts. And so here's another one we had done, was a little intersection mural. And again, another attempt to slow down cars and make our neighborhood safer. Let's see if there's any other fun ones in here. I go for questions maybe while I just look at some of these. There's a pop-up dog park we did in downtown Sioux Falls. There's now an apartment building built on this site, but a group I was chairing at the time, Downtown's Experience Committee, we came up with this concept to turn this vacant lot into a temporary dog park. So that's a thing we did. And then I painted this big parking lot mural to kind of make sure people didn't see this just as a place to put your car, but as a place to run around and have activity. And so we had a couple of outdoor things there. What else? This is a traffic wrap you maybe have seen on the back outside of Carnegie Hall that I designed, featuring flags. Yeah, I don't know. I've probably talked enough. I'll answer questions now, maybe. I think that'd be better.
Does anybody have any questions for Zach? Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask those.
Can you tell us more about those utility box wraps, just generally?
Yeah, just like the project itself. So it was a project that it was a few different entities were involved. Is Downtown Sioux Falls, the Sioux Falls Arts Council, and also I think it was a Bloomberg project, some kind of national project where they provided funding for cities to do public art projects. And so they came up with this concept. I think 60 different artists were selected. And some artists got entire boxes, some just got like one side, depending on what they submitted. And then they were installed, I guess, 2 summers ago now. Maybe last summer, I don't know. Again, time, who knows? So this was my design. This was a project that I made that reflected on the backside. We have flags of countries that are all represented of people who have moved to or immigrated to Sioux Falls through the years. Their countries of origin. And then on the sides of the boxes, we have the 9 native tribes that make up the land that we live on. And then on the backside, in the largest, is the Sioux Falls flag. So it was a piece saying, wherever these origins are, wherever your background is, we're all one Sioux Falls. We're all part of this. The Sioux Falls is made up of all these different pieces. And so that was what my piece was about. And so this one's outside of Carnegie Hall. This is the backside of the Argus Leader here. So yeah, that was a project that was fun. I was, it was, I think, meaningful for me to see out there. This is at the Breaks Coffee Shop. This is a thing I helped design with them, was help them design some outdoor seating to remove a parking space out front and convert that 2 parking spaces and convert it into an outdoor patio. And so they have this out now. This past summer was the 2nd year they had it out. It's been a great success, and it's kind of transformed that little outdoor area. And there's a nice little community that is kind of regularly out there on nice days. There's my daughter enjoying it.
Cute. Does anybody else have any questions for Zach? Zach, how did the tourism, I know you worked in the tourism industry, but do you notice that when you do murals in other towns that they become places that people go to visit?
Yeah, I think, ultimately that's my goal. That people will, at the very least pull over, take a picture, maybe take a selfie. But I think the biggest thing, tourism is one thing, but I think the biggest thing that I aim to do with my murals is to create town pride, or like pride and excitement in the place you are. Particularly, I work a lot in smaller communities rural communities. A lot of these places are, might be shrinking, might be losing population, don't have as much money, but there's still people who love their community and there's value in their place. And so I see the work that I do, or the job that I have to do, is to, one, excite people again, but also to show people both inside and out that like your town is still alive and is still vibrant and still has energy, and like this proves it. And my hope is always that after I do a project, that it's not the last one, for 10 years or more, that my project will make them want to do another one and then another one. So that's, I guess, what I see my role as. I don't remember what your question was.
That answered it. Yeah. Any other questions for Zach? No, we had some earlier. Let's see. Let me look in the chat. Oh, let's see. Oh, that's a cute one. They wanted to make sure that we put your website up here, which I did. I put it in the chat, zachdeboer.com. Do go there and check it out because his videos are pretty neat too. Anne says, my aunt was hired to paint Trompe, how do you say that? Trompe-l'oeil?
Trompe-l'oeil.
Yes.
That means very realistically.
Okay. In Belvedere, she painted historic paintings on the windows of old buildings, showing what the buildings originally were. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's really neat.
If you love history, especially, that would be a treat.
Okay, so is my screen still sharing, or am I on my face again?
We see you and your daughter.
Okay. Oh wait, okay, that's just my background, my desktop here. So let's do this. We'll do. Boop. There you go. I'm working on my wife's
Wow.
home work desk, and I'm like, how do I work all these things?
That's a carousel. Beautiful.
Yeah, so this was in Fulton. This one I did a while ago. I had a lot of fun with this one. This one's a little different than some of the other ones, like the postcard ones where I'll come in with a hard design. Here you see a bunch of people, kids, adults. To start this project, this is the new library, their new library space. It's an older building right on Main, perpendicular to Main Street. Just to the left there would be Main Street in Fulton. Had them come in, make a mess, and then I was going to incorporate their design, their mess into my work. And so you can kind of see how it evolves over time here. But they are, their nickname, if you're not familiar, is the Carousel City. And they actually have a working, 1930s carousel just down the road from where I'm at. And it runs on certain days in the summer. And so I wanted to, one, make reference to that and kind of strengthen the carousel theme that is in the town. Their water tower says the Carousel City. And I think that's just such a great name for a place. But Fulton has a bunch of beautiful murals. If you're familiar, they are the ones who have the massive grain elevator mural. And if you aren't familiar, you should Google Fulton grain elevator mural. And if once you see it, know that I had to be the next mural after that. Which is kind of like following the Beatles. It's kind of hard for anyone to be too impressed, I think. So I was just staring at this, very Trompe-l'oeil, photorealistic, massive cowboy painting on the side while I'm splashing colors around like a child. So I think some people were a little concerned at the beginning, at the very least, until they started to see maybe some other things come out of the picture. But this one was a lot of fun to work on because I don't often get to kind of, wing it or what I call be a real painter and, make decisions in the moment instead of going I know that needs to be red and that needs to be dark red.
That must have been really fun. Beautiful.
I was in the sun a lot too. I think I lost a lot of weight that summer. It's sweat.
Gorgeous. Well, Zach, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for talking to us about this and the importance of art in your city, the importance of walkability. I just love that. I hope that you, Zach, will join us again later in the month if there's any of our Ollie Shorts that you're interested in. And I hope that the rest of you will come back. We're here daily, weekdays at 12:30 during the month of February. It's free. Be sure that you share it with your friends and neighbors. We would love to have more people join our Ollie here at the University of South Dakota. We're so happy to have you here. Zach, thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thanks everybody.
Thank you. All right. Everyone, take care, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
See you later.
Everybody. Have a great day.